If you are receiving the state pension right now, or if you are within 10 years of claiming it, there is a very real possibility that the amount you are receiving or expecting to receive is lower than it should be. Not because of a government policy decision, not because of something you did wrong, because of gaps in your national insurance record that you may not even know exist and that you may still have time to fix. The full new state pension in 2026 to 2027 is £241.30 per week. That is the amount payable to someone with a complete national insurance record of 35 qualifying years. But the majority of people currently receiving the state pension do not have 35 complete qualifying years. Many have fewer than that, sometimes significantly fewer, because of periods working abroad, periods of self-employment with low profits, career gaps for caring responsibilities, or simply years where national insurance contributions were not made for one reason or another. For every qualifying year missing from your record, your state pension is reduced by a fixed fraction. 35 qualifying years gives you the full amount. 30 qualifying years gives you roughly 30/5ths of the full amount, which is £206.83 per week. 25 qualifying years gives you roughly 25/35ths, which is £172.36 per week. Each missing year is worth approximately £6.89 per week, or £358.28 per year, permanently for the rest of your life. Over a 20-year retirement, a single missing qualifying year that could have been filled costs approximately £7,165 in lifetime state pension income. 5 missing years costs over £35,000. Here is the part of this conversation that most people have never been told. You can pay voluntary national insurance contributions to fill gaps in your record, even after you have already started receiving your state pension. And the deadline to fill gaps going back to the 2020 to 2021 tax year is the 5th of April 2027. My name is James Whitfield. I have spent 16 years as an independent pension advisor, and the voluntary national insurance contribution conversation is one of the most financially significant conversations I have with clients, particularly with women who took time out of paid work to raise children or care for relatives, and with self-employed people whose profits fell below the threshold in certain years. These are groups who consistently have gaps in their NI records that they did not know were there and that they did not know they could fill. Let me explain the mechanics clearly. To receive any state pension, you need at least 10 qualifying years of national insurance contributions. To receive the full new state pension, you need 35 qualifying years. A qualifying year is any tax year in which you made sufficient national insurance contributions or in which you received national insurance credits. National insurance credits are awarded in certain circumstances without you having to make actual contributions. You receive credits automatically during periods of unemployment while claiming job seekers allowance or universal credit. You receive credits during periods of sickness or disability. You receive credits while receiving carers allowance. And critically, for many women who took time out of paid work to look after children, you received credits if you were claiming child benefit for a child under 12. This last point is one that I want to spend a moment on because it affects a significant number of women who are now approaching or already receiving the state pension. If you were at home looking after children and you were claiming child benefit in your name, your national insurance record was credited for those years automatically. But here is the problem. From January 2013, many families with a higher income earner began to opt out of receiving child benefit or stopped claiming it because of the high income child benefit charge introduced at that time. If you stopped claiming child benefit and you were not in paid employment, you stopped receiving the national insurance credits that came with it. Your NI record has gaps for those years. There is a remedy called Specified Adult Childcare Credits, sometimes called Home Responsibilities Protection in older terminology. If you were looking after a grandchild or other child under 12 so that the child's parent could work, you may be entitled to NI credits for those years under the Specified Adult Childcare Scheme. The application is made on Form CF411A, available from HMRC. But the broader point is this. Before you accept the state pension forecast on your government gateway account as a final and fixed number, you need to look at the underlying national insurance record and understand whether every year that should be credited is credited, and whether any gaps can be filled through voluntary contributions. How to check your national insurance record. The fastest way is through your personal tax account at gov.uk. Log in using your Government Gateway user ID and password. If you do not have a Government Gateway account, you can register at gov.uk, and the process takes about 15 minutes. Once logged in, navigate to the National Insurance section. You can see your complete NI record year by year, showing which years are full qualifying years, which years have gaps, and what the gap costs in terms of state pension. You can also call the National Insurance Helpline at 03002 003500 and ask for a written statement of your NI record. Or you can request a state pension forecast from the Future Pension Centre by calling 0800 731 0175. The forecast will show you your current projected state pension based on your existing record and how much more you would receive if you continued making contributions until state pension age. It will also show whether your record already shows the maximum benefit from continued contributions, in which case filling gaps may not increase your pension further. This last point is important. Paying voluntary contributions is not always worthwhile for everyone. If your state pension is already at the full rate because you have 35 or more qualifying years, additional voluntary contributions will not increase it further. Checking your forecast before paying anything is essential. The cost of voluntary contributions. Voluntary contributions used to fill gaps in your NI record are paid as Class 3 National Insurance contributions. The rate for the 2026 to 2027 tax year is £17.75 per week, or £923 per year. For a gap year that adds £6.89 per week to your state pension permanently, the payback calculation is straightforward. £923 to purchase £6.89 per week in additional state pension. That additional weekly payment accumulates to £358.28 per year. You recover the cost of the contribution in approximately 2 years and 7 months. If you live another 10, 15, or 20 years beyond that point, the additional state pension represents a return of 4 to 8 times what you paid. The break-even point is under 3 years of state pension receipt. For anyone in reasonable health who expects to live well past their mid-70s, paying voluntary contributions to fill gaps is one of the highest return financial decisions available. The government is effectively offering to sell you an annuity that pays back its cost in 2.5 years and then continues paying for the rest of your life. Which gaps can you fill right now? The standard rule is that you can fill gaps going back 6 tax years. As of the 2026 to 2027 tax year, that means you can fill gaps from 2020 to 2021 onwards. The deadline to fill a gap from 2020 to 2021 is the 5th of April 2027. Gaps from 2021 to 2022 can be filled until the 5th of April 2028, and so on, with each year's deadline 6 years after the gap year. If you have gaps further back than 2020 to 2021, those can generally no longer be filled under the standard rules. There were extended deadlines in previous years that allowed gaps going back to 2006 to be filled, but those special extension periods have now closed. The practical action is to check your NI record now. Identify any gaps from 2020 to 2021 onwards. Calculate the cost of filling each gap against the pension increase it would generate, and make the payment before the relevant deadline. Payments can be made online through the government's website using a bank transfer, debit card, or cheque. Before making any payment, contact the Future Pension Centre on 08007 310175 to confirm that the gap you intend to fill will actually increase your pension. In some circumstances, filling a gap may not increase your pension if you already have enough years for the maximum amount, or if the year in question was partially credited through other means. The state pension underpayment error and what it means for current pensioners. There is a separate issue that I want to address for people who are already receiving their state pension, particularly women in their 70s and 80s. In 2021, the government acknowledged that the DWP had underpaid state pension to tens of thousands of people, mainly women who were entitled to an increase based on their husband's national insurance record, but who were never informed of their entitlement. The underpayment exercise has been ongoing since then. According to DWP statistics, as of early 2026, the department has corrected payments for over 93,000 cases and paid out over £1 billion in arrears. But the exercise is not yet complete. The people most likely to have been underpaid are women who reach state pension age before April 2016 and who are entitled to receive a state pension based on their husband's contributions rather than their own record. This is the old system's Category B pension, which entitled a married woman to receive 60% of her husband's basic state pension if her own record was insufficient. If you are a woman who reached state pension age before April 2016 and your husband has a full state pension record, but your own state pension is well below the 60% figure, it is worth contacting the DWP Pension Service on 0800 731 0469 to ask whether your payment has been checked as part of the underpayment exercise. The DWP has been writing to affected pensioners, but the exercise has been slow and some people have been missed. The arrears for those who are underpaid can go back years and can amount to several £1,000s in a single payment. Let me close with the 3 specific actions I want you to take after watching this video. First, log into your personal tax account at gov.uk and check your national insurance record. Look at every year from 2020 to 2021 onwards and identify any gaps. Note the cost to fill each gap and compare it to the pension increase it would generate. Second, request a state pension forecast from the Future Pension Centre at 0800 73 10175 if you have not already done so. Confirm whether filling any gaps would increase your pension and by how much. Do not pay any voluntary contributions until you have this confirmation. Third, if you are a woman who reached state pension age before April 2016, contact the DWP Pension Service and ask whether your payment has been reviewed as part of the state pension underpayment correction exercise. The deadline to fill gaps from 2020 to 2021 is the 5th of April 2027. That is less than 10 months away. If you have gaps in your record from that year, the time to act is now, not next spring. Send this video to one person in your life who is approaching state pension age and who has never checked their national insurance record. One phone call and one online check could make a difference of thousands of pounds to their retirement income for the rest of their life. Let me go deeper on several aspects of this topic because the practical details make a significant difference to whether the action I have described is worthwhile for your specific situation. On the question of who benefits most from voluntary contributions, I want to address 4 specific groups who consistently have gaps in their NI records and who are most likely to find the voluntary contribution calculation worthwhile. The first group is women who took extended time out of paid work for child rearing or caring responsibilities between the mid-1980s and the late 2000s. During this period, the Home Responsibilities Protection Scheme credited some but not all of those years. Women who were not claiming child benefit in their own name or who were in a household where the benefit was being paid to a partner may not have received the full credits they were entitled to. These women often reach state pension age with fewer qualifying years than expected and are surprised to find their pension is significantly below the full rate. The second group is self-employed people whose annual profits fell below the small profits threshold in certain years. For 2025 to 2026, the small profits threshold is £6,725. In years where your self-employment profits were below this threshold, you were not automatically credited with a qualifying year. You could have paid voluntary Class 2 contributions to fill the gap at a significantly lower cost than Class 3. For current self-employed individuals with low profits, paying Class 2 voluntarily during the relevant tax year is still significantly cheaper than Class 3. The third group is people who worked abroad for extended periods. Living and working outside the United Kingdom means you are generally not paying into the UK national insurance system. People who spent years working in Australia, Canada, the United States, or other countries with bilateral social security agreements may have some of those years credited, but the arrangements are complex and vary by country. If you spent significant time working abroad, checking your NI record and consulting with HMRC about how those years are treated is worth doing before assuming your record is complete. The fourth group is anyone who had periods of low earnings from employment. If you worked part-time and your earnings in certain years fell below the lower earnings limit of £6,396 for 2026 to 2027, you may not have a qualifying year for that period, even though you were employed. On the calculation of whether to pay voluntary contributions, let me walk through a specific example. Take a woman who is currently 63, has 31 qualifying years, and has 2 fillable gaps from 2021 to 2022 and 2022 to 2023. The cost to fill both gaps is £1,846 at Class 3 rates of £923 each. Filling both gaps takes her from 31 to 33 qualifying years. Her state pension increases from approximately £226.61 to approximately £240 per week. The increase is £13.39 per week, or £696.28 per year. She recoups the investment in approximately 2 years and 8 months. If she lives to 85, she receives over £19,000 in additional state pension from this investment. The return is roughly 9-1. On the underpayment issue, the main groups at risk are women who reached state pension age before April 2016. Under the old system, a married woman was entitled to a Category B pension of 60% of her husband's basic state pension if her own record was insufficient. Many of these women are receiving less than this because the DWP failed to automatically increase their pension when their husband retired or died. The DWP is correcting these cases, but the exercise is incomplete. If you believe you may be affected, contact the Pension Service directly at 0800 731 0469 rather than waiting for them to contact you. The 5th of April 2027 is the deadline for gaps from 2020 to 2021. That date is fixed. Log into your personal tax account at gov.uk today, check your NI record, identify your gaps, call the Future Pension Centre at 0800 731 0175 to confirm the pension impact, and make the voluntary contribution before the deadline passes. I will see you in the next one. Let me also address something that affects people who are currently below state pension age and who are wondering whether to prioritise filling NI gaps or making private pension contributions. Voluntary NI contributions to fill gaps in your state pension record are, for most people, a better financial decision than equivalent amounts put into a private pension. The reason is the guaranteed nature of the return. The state pension is backed by the government. It rises with the triple lock each year. It is not subject to investment risk, and the return on the investment, recovering the cost in under 3 years, is exceptionally favourable compared to almost any other guaranteed financial product. Private pension contributions also have merit, particularly because of employer matching and tax relief on contributions. But the two are not mutually exclusive. If you have NI gaps that fall within the 6-year window, filling those gaps before they expire should take priority. Private pension contributions can continue alongside that. I also want to address the specific situation of people who have deferred their state pension. If you are eligible for the state pension but have chosen to delay claiming it, your eventual pension benefit increases for every week of deferral. For every 9 weeks you defer, your state pension increases by 1%, equating to approximately 5.8% per year of deferral. If you have deferred claiming and you also have gaps in your NI record, the combination of filling those gaps and then claiming at a higher rate through deferral can significantly increase your eventual weekly payment. For example, a person who fills 3 NI gaps at a cost of £2,769, increasing their weekly pension by £20.67, and who also defers claiming for 1 year after reaching state pension age, receives an additional 5.8% uplift on the higher base amount. The combined effect is a permanent weekly pension that is significantly above what they would have received by claiming immediately with an unfilled record. The deferral does not require any application. You simply do not claim when you reach state pension age. The increased amount is applied automatically when you eventually claim. You can defer for any length of time, and the increase accumulates for as long as you wait. Now I want to address the question of how to actually pay voluntary contributions once you have decided to do so, because this is where some people get stuck. Voluntary Class 3 national insurance contributions can be paid in one of three ways. Online, through the government's website, using the Check Your State Pension Age and Get Your State Pension Forecast tools at gov.uk, which then direct you to a payment page. By bank transfer, using the bank account details provided by HMRC, or by sending a cheque to HMRC's National Insurance Contributions team. The most efficient method for most people is the online payment through gov.uk. You log into your personal tax account, navigate to the National Insurance section, identify the gap year you want to fill, and follow the payment link. The payment is typically processed and your record updated within a few weeks. Before making any payment, always call the Future Pension Centre first to confirm that the payment will increase your pension. There are edge cases where filling a gap does not increase the pension. For example, if you already have 35 or more qualifying years and are already at the full rate, or if the year in question was partially credited through national insurance credits in a way that means paying to fill it provides no additional benefit. The Future Pension Centre number is 08007 310175. They can tell you over the phone whether filling a specific gap year will increase your pension and by exactly how much. This call is free and takes about 15 minutes. For people who are already receiving their state pension and want to top up through voluntary contributions, the process is slightly different. You contact the pension service on 080073 10469 rather than the Future Pension Centre, since your pension is already in payment. The pension service can assess whether voluntary contributions would increase your current pension and handle the application. The principle throughout is the same. Check first, confirm the benefit, then pay. Never pay without confirming the impact, because voluntary contributions are generally not refundable once paid. I will see you in the next one.